Happy Monday, everyone. We are the day after the Super Bowl, the day after the halftime show. My name is Janelle Villiers, and I am your host of the Other Side podcast. Today is also day one of me taking a slightly different turn in the podcast. So consider it like the first of the year for me. And that I will be talking a lot more now about not just about mental health, but I will be talking a lot more about the book writing process, the self-publishing process. I recognize there's a lot of people out there who have a lot of questions, who would love to learn more, and I want to bring a lot more authors onto the channel. And so in order to be able to do that, I need to share what I've learned, some of the wisdom that I've gained in this area to be able to help to bring people more value in this area, and then to bring on authors so you guys can hear from other authors and hear what they've learned and what they've got to share. So I'm super excited to be just creating a slight little shift, or a kind of like a lean in a direction I'd kind of like looked at and talked about from time to time. Like last week when we had on Nicole Elise. Shout out Nicole, you were amazing. Thank you so much for coming on again. But I just wanted to be upfront and open and honest that this is what you guys can expect, is a lot more conversation around writing books, the self-publishing process. And there's a lot of mental health stuff that we got to get through in order to talk about that stuff too. So it's not like that part will go away entirely. It's just that we'll be leaning more into this side of things. So with that being said, hey Sarah, hey City to Inspire, hi DJ Fresh. So there were a couple of things that I was thinking about talking about, but I essentially landed on this topic: book writing myths. And I want to expose them all. So if you're ready, say I'm ready in the chat, in the comments. That way I know that this is something that you are wanting to hear. And let's get into it. I'm really excited to talk about some of these things. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about, sorry, I wrote down some notes, that way I don't forget. The first thing that I wanted to talk about are actually the real costs of self-publishing, just so people have a better sense as to what that looks like. I see you, Sarah. Awesome. So glad you're ready. So the cost of publishing, I think that there are some hidden costs that people don't recognize. So let's just talk about the editing. You're, depending on how big your book is, right? Depending on how many words, how many pages, you're looking at spending anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 on editing. That doesn't include the cover design or formatting actually either, because you want to format the book to make sure it's formatted correctly to go to publishing. So depending on how big your book is. So a book like mine that was essentially 100 pages long, as a 6x9 book. It was 100 pages long, and I had about 40,000 words. That would cost me around $750 to edit, right? So you get like a sense. If you have 100,000 words, so maybe you have, that's more like maybe 100 to 200, let's say 150 to 200 pages, like in a Word document. And so that's about 100,000 words. Now you're looking at closer to, you know, the 2,000 mark, things like that. So the bigger the book, the more words there are, the more it's going to cost you. And so the cover design can cost anywhere between $300 to $1,000, again, depending on the type of quality you're looking for and what you want it to say. The formatting, so the interior, just making sure like every chapter starts on the right-hand side, for example, like if that's something that's really important to you, making sure the formatting works. So that way it's submittable to any of the publishing services that you're using. That could cost you anywhere between $200 and $500, right? So all of these things are some costs. So you're looking at max, I would say minimum, you're probably looking at around $600 to $700. Max, you could be looking at closer to like 7,000. And then you have the fees for the platform that you're going to use. So whether you're using Ingram Spark versus Amazon versus Lulu, direct to digital, any one of those platforms, some of them have fees, some of them don't. I'm actually going to be covering which ones have fees and which ones don't on tonight's masterclass. So if you haven't already registered for that, I'll go ahead and put that link in the chat so you guys can get that. But yeah, so there are some other fees there. Another big fee that people often forget is the ISBN. So you have to, the ISBN is kind of like the social security number or like the fingerprint for every single book. Every book is identified by its ISBN. And so ISBNs are going to cost you money. It's about $125 for one, but you can buy a package of 10 for $295. And you need one ISBN for every type of book that you have. So you need an ISBN for your ebook. You need a separate ISBN for the soft cover. You need a separate ISBN for the hardcover if you're doing all three. You do not need an ISBN number for the audiobook, in case you were wondering, right? So if you're going to do the copyright can cost anywhere between $65 to $100, depending on what exactly you're copywriting. So those are additional fees. And then we're talking about the launching of the book, right? So you probably want to give your beta readers or your advanced reader copy readers your book. And so you're looking at spending anywhere between $100 and $300 to make sure all of your advanced reader copy folks get access to the book so they can read it and give you important feedback before you go ahead and actually launch. Anybody who's involved in your launch team, any tools you need for that, any promotional materials that you're going to have for your launch, any of those things. So the real cost of self-publishing, you're looking at anywhere between essentially $1,000 to maybe $7,000, $8,000, or even $10,000 to make sure that you do it right. So I think the reason why authors waste so many, okay, first of all, if this was really helpful, please let me know in the chat if this was helpful for you. Because I think that right there is just something that people need to consider when they're publishing. I do the coaching. There's some people who need help just with the writing part. So I do the coaching. I actually help you get it from concept in your brain out onto paper and then flesh it out into words, right? That's the coaching part that I help people. I love doing that. It's a lot of fun. If you're on here and you've been coached by me, please go ahead and put it in the chat so people know that I am not making this up. I love doing this. And then with Say That Publishing, me and Winston, we have put together a publishing house then that has been so much fun, being able to take people's manuscripts and actually creating them and making them an actual book. And so we've been doing that. We just created awesome. Thank you, Donnelly at City to Inspire. We just created our third bestseller. So we have 3 best-selling authors. We have a system. It obviously works. We're really good at this. And so this is how I'm able to figure out like some of the ways that people waste money. So one of them is unnecessary marketing services. Sometimes people say that they're going to do things, but they're just not necessary. And we're going to get into marketing later. Sometimes people will do the marketing before they've had any editing, before your advanced readers get their copy, or the beta readers get their copy of the book, and then you want to make some changes, and maybe there's some big changes, especially the cover, right? So you could be marketing a cover that's before you do audience research. All of these different things could have you end up spending money unnecessarily, right? So you definitely want to do a lot of research before you push it out. I think the other thing is you want to compare services. It's a really big, important thing, I should say. It's a really important thing to compare services. You don't want to rush. If at all possible, slow the process down. However long you think it's going to do, just times it by like a half of that. So if you think it's going to take you a month, it'll probably take you maybe 10 weeks instead of 4 weeks. Or excuse me, maybe 6 weeks instead of 4 weeks, right? So a month and a half. If you think it's going to take you 3 months, it's probably going to take you 4.5 months, right? So these are the types of things that you should be thinking about. You don't want to rush into any of these decisions. Definitely don't ignore any free resources like this right here, free resources right here. So that way you can get all the information that you can to help with your research, to help you as you're moving forward. So here are some myths, right? So we have some myths that come about when we're talking about marketing. So I really wanted to delve into some marketing myths. Number one is that people think social media sells books. I know there's this whole like TikTok author thing that happens, and yes, that is real. I have met people who have gotten a lot of exposure through that, but you shouldn't just leave it up to an algorithm as to whether people are going to know about your book or not. You really want to get engaged with reader communities and create reader communities of your own. Engagement on social media doesn't equal sales. People love to be entertained for free, but it doesn't necessarily mean sales. So it's all about community. the quality of the community is so much more important than the quantity of people who are like following you or engaging in your social media. I think the other thing is people think more marketing equals more sales, and that's another myth. Strategic targeting matters most. Find your specific audience. Who are the people who love reading the type of book that you have written, and then focus on them. Make sure that they know that your book exists so that way they can get the value from it, whether it's just purely entertainment and escapism, whether it's a how-to book that you've written, and so there's like some actual step-by-step how-to logistics, whether it's your memoir, right? And the things that you've learned from your life that you want to share with other people, but who's the audience who would like to read those things, and then target them specifically. We all know that you want everybody and their mother to read your book, but the truth is you got to start and be very specific in the beginning. And then once those people, like the people who you're seriously targeting, love it and become raving fans, they're going to tell everybody and their mother anyway. So I think that's one of the other myths about marketing. And then the third myth is that launch day is everything. Launch day is a big thing. You definitely want to push towards launch day. I think without a target, right, the arrow will always miss its target. So or without a target, the arrow will always miss. Excuse me. So you definitely want to have a target. The launch date gives you a target, something to shoot for, something to aim for. You know, all of your marketing is going towards this day. You're like, I got to get as many people as possible to, buy the book on this day, right? So that's super important. But you definitely want to have a long-term strategy, because it's not like people are going to just buy your book on that day and never buy it ever again. This is a long-term game with books, especially if you're looking for that like residual income that's potentially possible from the book, right? Or that mailbox money, some people call it. You're going to need to continue to market it for the long term. So you need a consistent marketing plan that creates sustainable momentum throughout the time of you being an author and sharing about your book and all of that, right? So those are some 3 marketing myths: that social media sells books, that you need more marketing in order to get sales, and that launch day is everything. And then finally, let's wrap up with some of the myths about ranking on Amazon. Number 1, people think that like it takes some sort of magic for that to happen. The truth is it's all about the category. If you have a very specific category, there are certain programs we've invested at Say That Publishing. We invested in one of those programs that can tell you exactly how many books you need to sell in order to hit number 1. When I found out that this is all it took, I was shocked. And so what I mean by like getting a specific category, what if your book, the category was like fiction, let's see, thriller, and then that's it, right? Fiction, thriller. That's a very wide category. But if you really narrowed it down and you said fiction, thriller, United Kingdom, London, right? Like you got very specific, then all of a sudden now it becomes very clear how many books you need to sell in order to hit number 1. So for fiction, thriller, maybe you need like 1,000 people to buy your books in order to hit number 1, or in order to become a bestseller. But then when you niched it down further to fiction, thriller, United Kingdom, London, turns out you only need 20 people to buy the book in order to hit number 1, and maybe you need like 10 people in order to become a bestseller. So it is really important that you look at the categories. The more niche down the category, the better. The other thing that I did not know, in case you were curious, what does it take to become a New York Times best-selling author? You need to sell 10,000 copies of your book in the first 24 hours of it being sold. Right. Now you know why everybody isn't a New York Times bestselling author, because to do that requires a lot. A lot of things need to be in motion for that to happen. So if you're wondering why more people aren't doing it, that's the reason why. But you can certainly become a bestseller on Amazon. Using the categories is important. And remember, the number that you need to sell in order to hit bestseller, in order to hit number 1 on Amazon, also is the number of books that need to be sold in the first 24 hours of the book being available. That's huge. Understanding the algorithm on Amazon and how it all actually works is really important, especially when you're looking at the long-term game. Getting people to create reviews of your book is a really big thing that'll actually tick you up on the algorithm for your book to get to more people more. So it's all about long-term performance. Ultimately, you want to build real, authentic, genuine relationships with people, your audience. That's what's really key. And I think it's important for people to understand how much they're going to be investing going in when they're ready to push out their book. So if this has been helpful, please let me know in the comments. I'm going to be talking a lot about these. Oh, awesome. So I'm so glad you think that that you recognize that this is accurate, Donnelly, or City to Inspire on Instagram. This is very, very key. I'll just finish off before I do the summary. I just want to say that I'm really excited because tonight I'm going into a lot of these details. Let me go ahead and put that information in the chat because I promised you guys that I would. So let me do that before I forget. There are still some seats available. So if you want to join me in tonight's masterclass, write, publish, prosper. You can go to my stories. You can find the link there. I just put it in the chat as well. So please feel free to do that. I'm really excited to help as many people as I can, like I said. And if not, I will see you here again because I'll be talking more about this. We'll get some other authors on so they can talk about their experiences. But for today, let's just do today's wrap up. So for today, we talked about the myths of self-publishing. And first we talked about the cost. So you're looking at the real cost of self-publishing being anywhere from $1,000 to $7,000 or $8,000, depending on what you're doing and the quality of the services that you're looking for. I think the reason why authors waste money is because they don't do their research before and they like push things out. They rush to push things out before everything's ready. Some of the marketing myths we talked about is that social media sells books. Nope. that if you market more, then you'll sell more books. That's not it. And that launch day is everything. Certainly isn't it. What it comes down to truly is really creating engaging in community, finding your target readers, the people who are interested in reading your book. And when you launch, certainly, yes, you're going to have a target. So that way you have something to aim for, but you're really looking to create a long-term strategy, a long game strategy. And then finally, we talked about the myths in terms of Amazon and how different rankings work. We talked about the New York Times bestseller list and how to do that. We talked about how to get the rankings for the Amazon bestsellers, all about the categories ultimately. The more niche down the category you can put your book in, the more likely it is that you can hit #1 and even a bestseller. So I hope this has been really helpful. Thank you all who joined in. I really appreciate you. Come join me next week, Monday, same time, 5:30 Eastern. Until then, I'll see you there. Bye.